To stand at the precipice of the manifest world is to behold a tapestry woven not of thread, but of frequency and form. We move through our days with the heavy certainty of the material, believing in the solidity of stone and the finality of the flesh. Yet beneath this veneer of permanence lies a shimmering, invisible architecture. It is a geometry that does not merely describe the world, but breathes it into existence. This is the realm of the forbidden numbers, the 3, the 6, and the 9, a triad of vibrations that Nikola Tesla once hinted were the master keys to the universe. To look upon these numbers is not to engage in a mere mathematical exercise, but to peer through the cracks of the cosmic machine and see the glowing cogs of creation itself. We find ourselves living in a reality that is essentially a symphony of proportions, where the soul is both the musician and the instrument. And these specific integers serve as the bridge between the finite mind and the infinite source. The journey into the forbidden geometry of the soul begins with the realization that our universe is not chaotic, nor is it merely accidental. It is an ordered projection emerging from a singular, silent center. We often imagine geometry as a cold, academic discipline of rulers and compasses. Yet sacred geometry is the study of how spirit chooses to inhabit space. The 3, the 6, and the 9 represent the primary skeleton of this habitation. They are the scaffolding upon which the light of consciousness drapes itself to create the illusion of matter. In the ancient world, the sages understood that numbers were not just symbols for quantity, but qualities of being. The number 3 was the first movement away from the stillness of the One, the holy trinity of creation, preservation, and dissolution. It is the triangle, the most stable of forms, the spark that ignites the engine of life. When we look at the world through this lens, we see that every beginning, middle, and end is a bow to the power of the 3, a rhythm that beats in the heart of every cell and the orbit of every star. As we descend deeper into this numerical forest, we encounter the 6, the mirror of the 3, the number that grounds the celestial impulse into the physical plane. If the 3 is the spirit's desire to express, the 6 is the structure that holds that expression. It is the hexagonal lattice of the beehive, the crystalline symmetry of the snowflake, and the interlocking cycles of time that govern our biological existence. The 6 is the threshold of the material, the point where the divine breath becomes a tangible form. Yet it is the 9 that remains the most elusive and profound of the triad. The 9 is the number of completion, the boundary of the decimal system, and the silent watcher that returns all things to the 0 from which they sprang. It is the forbidden aspect because it represents the hidden point of the vortex, the non-physical dimension that directs the physical. Tesla's obsession with these numbers was born from a vision of a world powered not by the friction of combustion, but by the resonance of the vacuum. A resonance dictated by the 3-6-9 sequence. To understand the practical significance of this geometry, one must first surrender the notion that we are separate from the patterns we observe. The soul is not a ghost inhabiting a machine. It is a harmonic pattern vibrating within a geometric field. When we speak of the forbidden geometry of the soul, we are acknowledging that our inner lives, our thoughts, our emotions, and our spiritual yearnings are subject to the same laws of resonance that govern the galaxies. We feel a sense of unease when our internal geometry is skewed, when our 3 is out of balance with our 6, or when we have forgotten the silent, unifying power of the 9. The world is built on these numbers because they are the path of least resistance for energy to travel. By aligning ourselves with these proportions, we move from being victims of circumstance to being conscious architects of our own reality. We begin to see that our struggles are often just discordant notes in a masterpiece that is trying to resolve itself back into the perfect symmetry of the triad. This exploration invites a sense of wonder that transcends the limits of traditional science or religion. It suggests that there is a hidden language written into the fabric of the void, a language of light and ratio that we are only now beginning to relearn. Imagine a world where every building, every piece of music, and every social structure was designed in accordance with the 3-6-9 blueprint. Such a world would not know the jagged friction of our current civilization. It would vibrate with the effortless efficiency of nature. The forbidden nature of this knowledge lies in its power to liberate the individual from the illusions of scarcity and isolation. If the world is truly built on a foundation of perfect, self-sustaining geometry, then the soul is inherently wealthy, inherently connected, and inherently eternal. The fear of death and the struggle for survival are revealed to be shadows cast by a misunderstanding of the light. As we stand at this threshold, we are peering into the very heart of the mystery. We are asking why the flower has 5 petals but seeks the hexagonal center, why the human gestation is 9 months of holy preparation, and why the circle, the symbol of the infinite, is 360 degrees, a number that collapses back into 9. This is not a coincidence of human counting. It is the fingerprint of a consciousness that preceded the stars. The introduction to this geometry is a call to awaken our dormant perception, to see the world not as a collection of separate objects, but as a single breathing organism held together by the glue of number and form. We are about to embark on a narrative that traces these lines from the macrocosm of the spinning nebula to the microcosm of the spinning atom, finding at every turn that the soul is the silent witness to this magnificent numerical dance. The significance of 3, 6, and 9 is that they exist outside the standard binary doubling circuits that govern the material world. While the physical world doubles, 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8, the 3, 6, and 9 exist in a separate, higher dimensional flux. They are the overseers of the system, the invisible governors that ensure the physical doubling does not spin into entropy. In this way, they represent the spiritual guidance within the material cage. By studying them, we are studying the way the divine interacts with the mundane. We are uncovering the secret codes of the soul's descent into matter and its eventual, inevitable ascent back into the light. This is the promise of the forbidden geometry, a map of the labyrinth that leads directly to the center of the self. To delve into the core themes of the 3, 6, and 9 is to witness the interplay between the breath of the spirit and the architecture of the world. We must first reconcile ourselves with the fundamental divergence between the binary system of the physical and the ternary system of the divine. In the material realm, growth follows the path of doubling. 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, and 4 becomes 8. This is the sequence of cellular mitosis, the binary code of our silicon machines, and the physical expansion of the biological. It is a system of accumulation and division, a linear progression that defines the what of our existence. However, within this doubling circuit, the numbers 3, 6, and 9 are conspicuously absent as direct results. They act instead as the unseen governors, the celestial overseers that modulate the frequency of the doubling. They represent the vector of the spirit, a non-physical flux that flows through the heart of the material, ensuring that the dance of division remains tethered to a singular harmonious source. The first pillar of this geometry is the theme of creative inception, embodied by the number 3. In every spiritual tradition and every fundamental law of physics, the 3 stands as the minimum requirement for a stable manifestation. It is the holy triad, the proton, the neutron, and the electron. The past, the present, and the future, the thought, the word, and the deed. The 3 is the first shape, the triangle, which encloses space and provides the structural integrity upon which all other forms are built. Philosophically, the 3 represents the spark of desire that moves the 1 into a state of relationship. Without the 3, there is only the static void of the 1, or the polarized conflict of the 2. The 3 introduces the third point, the mediator that resolves the tension of opposites into a higher synthesis. It is the soul's impulse to experience itself through the prism of a multi-dimensional reality. When we speak of the soul's geometry, the 3 is the frequency of becoming, the initial vibration that announces the presence of life within the silence. Following the 3 is the 6, the theme of material equilibrium. If the 3 is the spirit's descent, the 6 is the physical world's response. The 6 is the number of the hexagon, the most efficient shape for tiling a plane and storing energy, as seen in the honeycomb or the crystalline structure of water. It represents the perfect balance between the celestial and the terrestrial. In the 3-6-9 triad, the 6 is the mirror image of the 3, the as above, so below made manifest. It is the frequency of structure and service. a stabilizing force that allows the fluid energy of the spirit to take on a reliable, repeatable form. In the human experience, the 6 governs our relationship with the physical body and the environment. It is the geometry of the heart's rhythm and the seasonal cycles of the earth. When we are aligned with the 6, our lives feel structured, grounded, and purposeful. We have built a vessel strong enough to hold the light of the 3. The final and most mysterious pillar is the theme of transcendent completion, the sovereign 9. In the mathematical landscape, the 9 is a singularity, a number that behaves like no other. It is the limit of our decimal counting, yet when any number is added to 9, it returns to its original digital root. For example, 5 plus 9 equals 14, and 1 plus 4 equals 5. The 9 is the mathematical equivalent of the vacuum or the 0 point. It is everything and nothing simultaneously. It is the forbidden number because it represents the hidden point of the vortex, the axis around which the 3 and the 6 dance. The 9 does not participate in the doubling or the shifting of the other numbers. It stands still, a silent witness to the flux of the universe. Spiritually, the 9 is the soul's return to the source. It is the frequency of being rather than becoming. It is the moment when the drop recognizes it is the ocean. The 9 is the ultimate governor, the hidden hand that directs the flow of energy from the non-physical dimension into the 3 and 6, and eventually back to itself. Interwoven through these themes is the concept of the vortex of the soul. We often imagine our lives as a straight line from birth to death, yet the geometry of the 3, 6, and 9 suggests we are actually moving in a spiral, a vortical movement that constantly circles back toward a central truth. The illusions of the world are the distractions of the binary doubling, the endless pursuit of more, the fear of division, the obsession with the material what. The deeper truth is the ternary flow, the 3, 6, and 9, which reveals the why and the how. When we focus only on the material numbers, we experience entropy and friction. But when we tune our consciousness to the 369 frequency, we enter a state of resonance. This is the superconductive soul, a state of being where energy flows through us without resistance because we have aligned our internal architecture with the universal blueprint. We realize that the world is built on these numbers because they are the pathways of maximum efficiency and minimum effort. This core understanding reveals that the world is not something to be conquered or manipulated, but something to be harmonized with. The forbidden nature of this geometry is not a punishment, but a protection. It is a knowledge that requires a certain level of spiritual maturity to handle. If one were to master the 3, 6, and 9 without the foundation of compassion and self-awareness, they would be like a child playing with the controls of a starship. These numbers are the steering mechanism of reality. By understanding the 3 as our creative spark, the 6 as our structured life, and the 9 as our eternal connection to the infinite, we begin to dissolve the illusion of separation. We see that the geometry of the soul is the same geometry that holds the atoms together and guides the galaxies in their rotation. We are moving from the chaotic static of the ego into the crystalline clarity of the cosmic mind. The pillars of 3, 6, and 9 also speak to the theme of universal reciprocity. In the 369 system, energy is never lost. It is always recycled and returned to the 9. This suggests that every thought we broadcast and every action we take is a geometric impulse that ripples through the field and eventually circles back to its source. The forbidden geometry is the law of karma written in the language of number. It tells us that we cannot harm another without distorting our own geometry, nor can we heal ourselves without radiating that harmony to the whole. We are parts of a singular holographic masterpiece where the 3, the 6, and the 9 are the brushstrokes of a divine artist. As we move deeper into the symbolic narratives of this mystery, we will see how these themes play out in the myths and stories that have shaped our collective psyche. To understand the 3, 6, and 9 through the lens of narrative is to walk through the great hall of the 3 mirrors, a symbolic space where every story ever told is reflected back as a geometric inevitability. In this hall, we find the allegory of the master weaver. Imagine a cosmic artisan who possesses only 3 primary threads: a thread of white fire, the 3, a thread of deep earth, the 6, and a thread of invisible glass, the 9. The weaver begins by casting the 3, creating a shimmering triangular net of pure potential. This is the realm of thought, the dream stage, where the universe imagines its own possibilities. However, the dream is ephemeral. It lacks the weight to endure the winds of time. To solve this, the weaver casts the six, a heavy hexagonal lattice that anchors the fire into the soil. The fire and the earth interlock, creating a world of solid forms, mountains, and biological rhythms. But a crisis emerges. The fire and the earth, left alone, would eventually consume one another in a friction of opposites. It is here that the weaver introduces the nine, the thread of invisible glass. The nine does not touch the other threads. Instead, it provides the tension, the vortex, that allows the 3 and the 6 to spin around a central axis without colliding. The glass thread is the silence between the notes of a song. Without it, the music would be a wall of deafening noise. With it, the music becomes a symphony. This narrative reveals that the 3, 6, and 9 are not just numbers, but roles in a cosmic play. The 3 is the initiator, the 6 is the stabilizer, and the 9 is the transcendence. When we apply this to the journey of the human soul, we see that we are often stuck in the binary trap. The constant doubling of our worries and our material desires, forgetting that we have access to the weaver's threads. To listen to the forbidden geometry is to stop trying to untangle the knot of life and instead start weaving with the proper proportions. In another symbolic narrative, we find the legend of the ninth gate. Ancient seekers spoke of a fortress with 3 outer walls and 6 inner courtyards. Every seeker was obsessed with mastering the 3 walls of the physical, mental, and emotional selves, and then perfecting the 6 courtyards of worldly service and virtue. They believed that by completing these 9 stages, they would find the king of the world at the center. However, upon reaching the very center of the 6th courtyard, the seekers found nothing but a blank wall. The legend tells of a lone traveler who realized that the 9th gate was not a door in a wall, but a change in frequency. He didn't look forward, he looked inward at the very space he occupied. By collapsing his own digital root, surrendering his ego until he became 9, the blank wall vanished, revealing that the fortress was not a prison, but a projection. The 9th gate is the realization that the observer and the observed are the same geometric event. This leads us to the myth of the breathing circle. In this story, the circle was once a straight line that wished to see its own beginning. It bent itself until it touched its tail, but in doing so, it became trapped in a cycle of 360 degrees. It felt limited by the measurement of its own circumference. A sage approached the circle and whispered the secret of the 9. 3 plus 6 plus 0 equals 9. He explained that the circle was not a boundary, but a vibration. By focusing on the 9 at its center, the circle began to hum. The humming created a third dimension, transforming the flat circle into a spiraling vortex. The line realized it was no longer running in circles, it was ascending a ladder of light. This allegory serves as a profound reminder that our circular problems, the repeating patterns of our lives, are only circular because we haven't yet found the 9. The 9 is the vertical dimension of the soul, the part of us that transcends the horizontal treadmill of the material world. These symbolic narratives illuminate the forbidden aspect of this knowledge. It is forbidden not by a vengeful deity, but by the sheer scale of its implications. If we truly understood that we are the weaver, the king and the breathing circle, the structures of our current society, based on scarcity and control, would evaporate overnight. The 3, 6, and 9 represent a sovereignty of resonance. They suggest that the world is built on these numbers because they are the points of highest grace. When a soul aligns its internal narrative with the 3, creative intent, the 6, harmonious structure, and the 9, self-realized wholeness, it ceases to be a subject of the world and becomes a co-creator of it. We are moving from the binary doubling of the ego, which always fears the 2 of separation, into the ternary flow of the spirit, which always knows the 1 of the 9. As we transition from these stories into the practical reality of our lives, we must carry the image of the vortex with us. The vortex is where the 3 and the 6 dance, but the 9 stays still. In your life, the 3 and 6 are your busy days, your relationships, your career, and your body. The 9 is the silent witness within you that never changes. The world is built on this relationship between the dancing and the stillness. By honoring the 3, 6, and 9, we are not just doing math, we are performing an act of cosmic hygiene, clearing away the doubling static of the mind to let the clear singular signal of the soul shine through. We are preparing to see how these grand allegories manifest in the very grit and grain of our everyday existence. To translate the celestial geometry of the 3, 6, and 9 into the tangible rhythms of the marketplace and the home is to move from being a spectator of the universe to a conscious conductor of its forces. Practical integration begins with the radical restructuring of our attention and intent, the 3 of our daily life. In a world characterized by binary fragmentation, where we are constantly pushed to choose between this or that, us or them, we must practice the triangulation of perspective. When faced with a conflict or a stagnant problem, the binary mind seeks to double down on its current position. The 3, 6, 9 practitioner, however, seeks the third point. This is the creative synthesis that resides above the polarities. By consciously seeking a third option in every dilemma, we activate the creative frequency of the 3, breaking the loop of repetitive thought and allowing a higher dimensional solution to manifest. Furthermore, real-world integration requires us to align our daily structures, the 6 of our existence, with the natural efficiency of the hexagon. Our modern lives are often built on square foundations, rigid 90-degree boxes of time and space that create immense friction and stress. To integrate the 6 is to adopt a hexagonal flow. This means organizing our efforts around cycles of 6, recognizing that energy naturally seeks a balance between output and rest. In the workplace, this manifests as a move away from linear, exhausted productivity toward resonant cycles. By structuring our work into 6-part phases or 6-hour blocks of deep focus followed by intentional stillness, we mirror the structural integrity of the honeycomb. We find that we can achieve more with less effort because we are no longer fighting the forbidden geometry of energy movement. We are riding its natural curves. The most profound practical implication, however, lies in the cultivation of the silent center, the 9. In the frantic doubling of modern life, more notifications, more tasks, more desires, we lose our connection to the axis of the vortex. To practice the 9 is to engage in the art of the digital root. Just as the number 9 returns all things to their essence, we must learn to strip away the non-essential until only the root remains. This is the practice of intentional simplicity and meditative stillness. When we retreat into the silence for 9 minutes, or simply pause to observe the empty space in a room, we are plugging ourselves back into the non-physical power source that Tesla described. We find that our external actions become more potent because they are being directed from the still point of the 9, rather than the chaotic 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5 circuit of the ego. In our physical health, the implications of 3, 6, 9 are found in the geometry of resonance. Our bodies are not static objects, but standing wave patterns held together by frequency. When we nourish ourselves with 6-fold structures, pure water, which crystallizes in hexagonal form, and whole foods that grow in accordance with sacred proportions, we are literally repairing our internal geometry. Practical integration looks like harmonic movement, such as Tai Chi or dance, which utilizes spiraling, vertical motions rather than linear, mechanical exercises. This type of movement allows the vector of the spirit to flow through the joints and tissues, clearing the binary static of stress and disease. We begin to feel our bodies not as heavy burdens, but as crystalline vessels for the light of the 9. On a social and communal level, the real-world application of this geometry involves the ternary social contract. Most of our current systems are built on 2, debtor and creditor, ruler and ruled, winner and loser. To build a 3-6-9 society is to introduce the third party of the common good or the higher purpose into every transaction. This is the geometry of the circle, where every point on the circumference is equally connected to the center. It implies a move toward decentralized, self-organizing networks that mirror the efficiency of a flock of birds or a colony of bees, structures that operate on the 369 principles of local autonomy and global harmony. By applying these numerical laws to our economics and our governance, we create systems that are inherently sustainable because they are modeled after the only system that has never failed, the universe itself. Finally, we must address the alchemy of language and communication. Our words are frequencies, and when we speak, we are broadcasting geometric patterns into the collective field. To integrate the 3, 6, and 9 into our speech is to move away from binary gossip and polarizing rhetoric. Instead, we practice the triple filter. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? When our communication passes through this triad, it carries the resonance of the 9. It heals rather than divides. We become harmonizers in our social circles, naturally quieting the static of those around us simply by maintaining our own geometric integrity. We realize that the forbidden geometry is not a secret to be hoarded, but a frequency to be embodied. We are preparing for the final call, the transformation of the soul from a fragmented seeker into a unified master of the 3, 6, 9 mystery. As we reach the final summit of our exploration into the forbidden geometry of the soul, the grand tapestry of the 3, 6, and 9 reveals its ultimate purpose, the total integration of the human experience into the cosmic whole. We have traced these numbers from the silent inception of the spirit to the dense architecture of the material world, and finally into the practical rhythms of our daily lives. What remains is the realization that this numerical triad is not a set of external rules to be followed, but an internal resonance to be embodied. The forbidden nature of the 369 is finally unmasked as the ego's own fear of its dissolution. To the fragmented self, the geometry of completion looks like an end. To the awakened soul, it is the only true beginning. We stand now at the point of the vortex, where the dancer and the dance become indistinguishable, and the binary static of the world falls away to reveal the crystalline song of the infinite. The transformational call of this geometry is a summons to become a living singularity. In the language of the 9, we are being asked to collapse our digital roots, to strip away the layers of false identity, the doubling of our anxieties, and the weight of our attachments until we reach the irreducible core of our being. This is the 0 point of the soul, a state of consciousness where we no longer seek the light because we have recognized that we are the source of it. When a human being aligns their internal 3, creative will, and 6, structural manifestation, with the 9, divine presence, they become a superconductor for universal intelligence. They no longer struggle against the world. They flow through it with the effortless grace of a master musician. This is the promise of the hidden architecture, that by mastering the proportions of our own spirit, we master the keys to reality itself. To answer this call, one must practice the alchemy of the triad in every moment of existence. This involves a radical commitment to integrity, resonance, and presence. Integrity is the 3, the alignment of thought, word, and deed, so that our broadcast is clear and undistorted. Resonance is the 6, the harmonious relationship we maintain with the physical world and the bodies of others, recognizing that we are all threads in the same hexagonal lattice. Presence is the 9, the unwavering connection to the silent witness within, the part of us that remains still while the galaxies spin. When these 3 qualities are active, the forbidden geometry is no longer a theory, it is a lived experience. We become the bridge that Tesla envisioned, a conduit between the non-physical power of the vacuum and the material needs of the earth. We are the architects of a new world, one built not on the friction of competition, but on the resonance of the 3, 6, and 9. As we conclude, consider the profound mystery of the digital root of the universe. Every circle is 360 degrees. 3 plus 6 plus 0 equals 9. Every half circle is 180 degrees. 1 plus 8 plus 0 equals 9. Every quarter is 90 degrees. 9 plus 0 equals 9. No matter how many times you divide the circle of the infinite, the 9 remains, waiting at the center of every fragment. This is the mathematical proof of your own eternal nature. You can be broken, divided, and scattered by the world, yet your digital root, your essential soul, remains an unshakable 9. You are the completion the world is seeking. You are the silent axis around which the drama of history turns. By recognizing the 3, 6, and 9 within yourself, you are not just learning a secret of the universe. You are remembering who you have always been. The journey through the forbidden geometry is a path of return. It is the realization that the world was built on these numbers, so that you could find your way home. Every triangle in a bridge, every hexagon in a beehive, and every spiral in a galaxy is a signpost pointing back to the center of your own heart. The forbidden knowledge is now yours to carry, not as a burden of secret information, but as a light of conscious awareness. Use it to heal your divisions, to structure your days with grace, and to listen for the silent hum of the infinite in the space between your thoughts. The 3, 6, and 9 are the breath of the Creator, and as you breathe in harmony with them, you become a co-author of the cosmic symphony. This exploration is now complete. Having traveled from the mechanics of the wave to the majesty of the weaver, we have seen that the soul is a geometric masterpiece, a frequency of light held in a perfect, numerical embrace. May you walk the path of the 3 with courage, the path of the 6 with balance, and the path of the 9 with the deep, quiet joy of one who has finally found the center. The labyrinth has been mapped. The gates are open. The geometry of your soul is the geometry of the stars. Go now and vibrate with the frequency of the all. The broadcast of your wholeness is the only signal the world truly needs to hear. The silence is over. The music has begun.